The door had only just closed behind my husband. The silence felt comfortable, familiar. But exactly 3 hours later, my daughter stumbled through that very door, sobbing, pale as a ghost, and whispered something that chilled my bones. "Mom, I am scared of Dad." If this story grips your heart even a little, do not forget to subscribe, like, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Every click helps us bring more stories to life. It started like any other Sunday morning. The kind of morning that wraps around you like a soft blanket, fooling you into thinking that life is simple, that love is safe, that home is forever. The sunlight filtered lazily through the kitchen window, catching the steam rising from a pan of blueberry pancakes. Birds chirped outside, and the air was still cool, the way it always was at the end of summer. Michael sat at the kitchen table, sipping his usual black coffee. His tie was already a little crooked, like he had rushed getting dressed, though he was not in any real hurry. Across from him, I flipped another pancake onto the growing stack and smiled to myself. It felt good to start the day quietly, without anyone rushing out the door or arguing over lost shoes. Emily was upstairs, getting ready. She was 14 and lately obsessed with oversized sweatshirts, notebooks full of doodles, and long, quiet afternoons at the library with her best friend Mia. She had told me the night before that she was planning to finish her latest sketchbook today, which meant I probably would not see her until dinner. Michael cleared his throat and stood, stretching his arms. "I am going to head out early," he said casually. "The warehouse said they might close early for Labor Day weekend. I want to get there before they do." I turned to look at him. "You are not going to wait for Emily?" He glanced up the stairs and shook his head. "Already said goodbye. Besides, it is just a quick trip. 3 hours, for at most. I will be back before dinner." He leaned over, kissed my forehead gently, and squeezed my hand. "Love you," he said, his voice soft. I smiled, but something about the way he looked at me felt final. Not like a real goodbye, but like the end of a chapter he did not want me to know was ending. His eyes lingered a second too long. There was a softness in his face, but also a tension around the edges, as if he was holding something back. I almost asked him if something was wrong, but I did not. Instead, I said, "Drive safe," and turned back to the stove. He picked up his keys, gave me one last glance, and walked out the door. I heard his car pull away and fade down the road. The kitchen fell silent except for the soft sizzle of batter in the pan. A few minutes later, Emily came down the stairs. She looked distracted. Her sweatshirt hung loosely off her shoulder, and her hair was tied back in a messy ponytail. She grabbed a pancake and nibbled at the edge of it, barely tasting it. "You okay?" I asked. She shrugged. "I guess." I watched her for a moment. She kept glancing at the door, like she expected someone to come back through it. Her fingers drummed restlessly against the table. "You said goodbye to your dad already?" Another shrug. "Yeah. He gave me a weird hug." "Weird?" She nodded, not looking at me. "He held on too long. And he said something. I do not remember exactly, but it felt strange. Like he was saying goodbye forever." That pulled a strange chill through my spine. "You are probably just overthinking it," I said gently, though even I did not believe my own words. "Your dad has been under a lot of stress with work. Maybe he was just being emotional." She did not answer. After breakfast, she wandered into the living room and curled up on the couch. I expected her to get ready and leave, but instead, she just sat there, staring at the window. The clock ticked by, and the house remained quiet. An hour passed. Then another. She did not move. "You are still going to the library, right?" I asked. "I think I changed my mind." I looked at her carefully. "You sure everything is okay?" Emily hesitated. Then she stood suddenly. "I am going for a bike ride. Just need some air." Before I could ask anything else, she had grabbed her helmet and was out the door. I watched from the window as she pedaled off down the street, hair whipping in the wind. She was moving fast. Too fast for someone just taking a casual ride. Something was bothering her. I could feel it deep in my bones. And then, exactly 1 hour later, the front door flew open so hard it slammed into the wall. "Mom." Her voice was shaking. Her face was pale, and her eyes were wide with fear. I rushed to her side as she collapsed into my arms, trembling. "Emily, what happened? Are you hurt?" She gripped my shirt, breathing hard, eyes filled with tears. "No, I am not hurt. But Mom, I am scared of Dad." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. "What? What do you mean?" She took a shuddering breath. "I followed him." I pulled back slightly. "You followed your father?" She nodded. I could not help it. After that hug this morning, I felt like something was wrong. So I waited until he drove away, then I grabbed my bike and followed his car. "Emily, that was not safe." "I know," she said, her voice cracking. "But something told me to do it. I stayed far back. I do not think he saw me." "Where did he go?" I asked. She looked at me, her eyes searching mine for something. Maybe understanding, maybe protection. "He did not go to the warehouse." My heart dropped. "He drove to another town. About 30 minutes away. A small one. By the lake. And then he parked in front of this house. It was big. Old. The curtains were all shut. I watched from across the street, behind a fence. I felt my hands go cold. He walked up to the door. A woman opened it. She hugged him. Smiled at him. Like they had done that before. And then, a boy came to the door. I said nothing. Just waited. He was maybe 10. And Dad. He hugged him too. Like he was his son. I could not breathe. "I stayed there for 20 minutes, she said. "They all went inside together. Like a family. And then..." My voice barely worked. Then, I heard a scream. What kind of scream? A child's. Just for a second. It was quick. But it was real. I pulled her closer. "Mom," she whispered, "what is he doing over there? Who are they? And why do I feel like I do not know him at all anymore?" I had no answers. We sat in silence for a long time. The only sound was the distant hum of the fridge and the ticking of the old kitchen clock. Eventually, she fell asleep curled beside me on the couch. Her breathing steadied, but her fingers still clutched my sleeve even in sleep. I stroked her hair gently, my mind racing. I did not know what to think, what to believe, what to do. My husband had told me he was going to the warehouse. Instead, he had driven to a house I had never seen, embraced a woman I had never met, and held a child who might, just might, be his. And then, the scream. I stared at the front door, half expecting him to walk through it at any moment. But I was not sure what I would see when he did. Would it still be the man I had married? Or someone else entirely? Because something was very, very wrong. And deep down, I already knew. This was only the beginning. That night, the house felt like a different place. It was the same furniture, the same old floor creaking beneath my feet, the same hum from the refrigerator and soft ticking from the hallway clock. But something had shifted. Something had twisted itself into the air like smoke, thick, silent, suffocating. Emily slept in my bed, curled against my side. She had not said another word after she told me what happened. Her breath was shallow, restless. At times she whimpered softly in her sleep, clutching at my arm, her brow furrowed. I held her tighter, wondering how I was supposed to keep her safe when I no longer knew what we needed protection from. I stared at the ceiling until dawn. Michael texted me sometime around midnight. Staying at a motel. Got too tired to drive back. Sorry. Love you. I read it twice. And again. Then I turned off my phone and held Emily even closer. By morning, I had made up my mind. I needed answers. Michael was supposed to be home by noon. That gave me 4 hours to do what I had never dared to do in 16 years of marriage. Search. Properly search. I started in the garage. It was his domain, cluttered with tools, parts, old boxes he never let me touch. There was a locked cabinet under his workbench that I had never seen open. I knew he kept a spare key taped under a wooden drawer near his toolbox. I had seen it once years ago, back when I was looking for a hammer. I found the key. My hands were shaking as I unlocked it. Inside were folders. Mostly old invoices from his business. Receipts. Useless junk. But under one of the folders was a manila envelope, unlabeled, thick and sealed. I opened it. Photographs. Dozens of them. Michael. With the woman Emily had described. And the boy. In some photos they were at a park. In others, sitting on a sofa together, playing board games. One photo had them all at the beach. Michael's arm was around the woman. The boy sat on his shoulders. And he was smiling. Genuinely smiling. The kind of smile I had not seen on him in years. I turned over one of the photos. There was a date. 7 years ago. I sat down hard on the workbench, the envelope in my lap, my mind reeling. 7 years. This was not an affair. This was not a one-time mistake. This was a second life. A parallel world he had built right under my nose. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. But I could not wake Emily. I could not shatter the only sense of peace she still had left. I carefully placed everything back where I found it, except the envelope. That, I brought inside with me. At the kitchen table, I poured myself a cup of coffee with hands that barely worked. I stared at the photos again. Studied every detail. The woman looked familiar. Not someone I knew, but someone I had perhaps seen before, in passing. Maybe at one of Michael's work events. Maybe in town. I could not place it. Her eyes were soft, intelligent. Her body language in the photos was relaxed, intimate. The boy had Michael's eyes. There was no denying it. I heard Emily stir upstairs, so I tucked the envelope into the drawer beneath the sink just as she came down in her pajamas. She looked at me with heavy eyes. Did he come back? No, I said gently. She sat across from me and curled her knees into her chest. Then I was not imagining it. No, I replied. You were not. We sat in silence. I wanted to tell her what I had found. I wanted to show her the pictures, confirm her fear, share my own. But something held me back. Maybe it was denial. Maybe it was instinct. Emily, I said slowly, do you remember anything else from yesterday? She looked thoughtful. He seemed different. Not like how he is with us. Happier. Softer. I nodded. And the boy? He called him Dad. That was the moment everything I feared became real. I stood from the table, walked to the sink, and turned on the tap just to drown out the roaring sound in my ears. My breath came in shallow bursts. Emily's voice came again, quiet. Mom, there is something else. I turned off the water. When I was hiding behind the fence, I heard them talking. Not all of it. Just one thing. What did you hear? She looked at me, and her face had that same look she wore when she was younger and afraid of thunder at night. He told her, it is almost time. We cannot keep him hidden forever. A chill ran through my spine. Are you sure that is what he said? She nodded slowly. I remember every word. Almost time. Hidden. The words echoed like whispers in the walls. Suddenly, I remembered something. There was a bump in the hallway wall behind the laundry room. Years ago, Michael told me it was just the structure of the house. A load-bearing beam. I had never questioned it. But now I wondered. When Emily went to shower, I went to investigate. I moved the small bookshelf that stood in front of the hallway wall. I examined the paint, ran my fingers along the seam. There. Barely visible. A line. A square. A hidden door. I pressed against it. Nothing. I looked around and noticed a small crack near the baseboard. Something metal glinted. A latch. With trembling fingers, I pulled it. The door clicked open with a soft creak. Behind it was a narrow, hidden space. More than a closet. Less than a room. Lined with shelves. On the shelves were boxes. Files. A burner phone. A notebook. And inside that notebook, dozens of names. Some were crossed out. Some were circled. And one name appeared again and again, written in red ink. Daniel. I had never heard that name before. I closed the notebook slowly, heart pounding. This was no longer about betrayal. This was about something darker. Something planned. Michael was keeping secrets far beyond another family. He was watching people, recording them, and I had no idea why. Emily called from upstairs, asking where her favorite hoodie was. I shoved the notebook under my shirt and closed the hidden panel quietly. Later that afternoon, Michael came home. As if nothing had happened. He walked in, placed his keys on the counter, and gave us both a calm, practiced smile. "Sorry I stayed out," he said. "Got tired on the way back. Decided it was safer to rest." I stared at him. Emily said nothing. He glanced between the two of us. "You both okay?" I stepped forward, holding the folder of photos. "I found these." He froze. For a moment, he said nothing. Then, slowly, he reached out and took the folder. He looked at me, and I will never forget the expression on his face. Not shame. Not fear. Resignation. Like he had known this day would come. "I can explain," he said. "You better." He sat at the table. His shoulders slumped. His voice was quiet. "She is someone from before. Before you and I. We never completely ended. We tried to stay away, but we kept coming back. Then she got pregnant. I wanted to tell you, but I was afraid. I thought I could manage both. Be a father to him, without ruining what we have." "And the name?" I asked. "Daniel." He looked up sharply. "Where did you hear that?" "You tell me." His face darkened. "That is not your concern." I stepped back. "Not my concern? Are you kidding me?" Emily stood behind me now, watching, listening. "Who is Daniel, Michael?" He said nothing. So I asked again, louder. "Who is Daniel?" He stared at me. Then he said something that made the room spin. "He is the reason I am doing all of this." I stared at him, breathless. "I need to protect him," he said. "From what?" But he stood and walked out the door, without another word, without an answer. And that night, after I put Emily to bed, my phone rang. An unknown number. A woman's voice answered. "If you want to know the truth," she said, "meet me tomorrow. Alone. I will tell you everything. But come alone. And do not trust him." Then she hung up. And I stood there in the dark, holding my phone, wondering, who is Daniel? And why is everyone so afraid of him? That night, sleep was a stranger to me. I lay in bed with my eyes wide open, listening to the soft hum of the night. Michael had gone into the guest room after dinner, claiming he needed time to think. I did not argue. I could not look at him. Not after what he said. Not after how he had walked away from both me and Emily without offering a real explanation. He had told me he was protecting someone named Daniel. He had told me almost nothing else. I stared at the ceiling, running everything through my mind again and again. The photos, the scream Emily heard, the hidden notebook behind the wall, the names, the number of times Daniel was written in red ink, circled again and again, like an obsession. Something was off. This was not just about infidelity anymore. It was something deeper. Something darker. Emily had fallen asleep on the couch again. She refused to sleep in her room. She said it felt too far away. I could not blame her. Everything in our house suddenly felt foreign. Even the walls. I waited until I heard Michael's door close and lock. Then I got up, quietly. I crept to the hidden room behind the hallway wall, opened it again with the small latch, and turned on the flashlight on my phone. I had only glanced through the notebooks before, but now I needed to understand. The notebook was old, worn, its pages filled with precise, anxious handwriting. Michael's handwriting. The first page started with a list of dates. Each was marked with a time and a location. May 3rd, 2:15 p.m., Highway 9, near Willows Creek. June 12th, 6:40 p.m., behind the old train yard. August 2nd, 3:30 p.m., school parking lot, West Hill Elementary. Next to each was a single word, seen. Or spotted. Some entries had red stars beside them. Others were crossed out. There were names too. Dozens of them. Some were completely scratched over until they were unreadable. But Daniel's name appeared again and again. Sometimes written in all caps. Sometimes circled multiple times. There were maps too. Rough sketches. Pins. Arrows. Trails. Places around town I recognized and some I did not. He had been tracking someone. Or many someones. And if this notebook was any indication, he had been doing it for years. I closed it, heart pounding. What was Michael doing? Who were these people? What did Daniel have to do with all of it? I pulled out the burner phone tucked in the back of the cabinet. It still had a charge. I pressed the button and waited. The screen flickered on. No lock code. Only 2 contacts saved. One named R and one named unknown. There were no text messages. Only call logs. Short, frequent calls, 5 minutes or less. Dozens of them. I clicked through the call history until I saw a note beside one of them. Do not involve her. Her. Me? Or Emily? Suddenly, I heard a floorboard creak behind me. I spun around. Emily. She was standing in the hallway in her socks and hoodie, arms wrapped tightly around herself. Mom, she said softly, I cannot sleep. I nodded, holding out a hand. She walked toward me and sat cross-legged on the floor beside the hidden door. I closed it behind me. For a few minutes, neither of us spoke. Then she whispered, Did you find something else? I looked at her carefully. She was strong, stronger than I ever gave her credit for, but she was still a child. My child. And I wanted to protect her. But I also could not lie to her anymore. Yes, I said. I think your father has been watching people. Following them. I do not know why. But I think it has something to do with Daniel. She nodded, like part of her had already known. Can I ask something? Of course. If Daniel is his son, why is he hiding him? I paused. I do not think it is that simple. What if Daniel is not just a person? She asked. I turned to her. What do you mean? She shrugged. I do not know. I just keep thinking about that scream. It did not sound normal, Mom. It was like something else. The silence stretched between us. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that she was imagining things. But deep down, I was not sure anymore. I wrapped my arm around her shoulder and we sat there until sleep finally pulled her under. The next morning, I woke up early and sent Emily to school like usual. I told her to act normal. She hesitated, but I assured her I would be okay. That I would be careful. She left, and I waited. Waited until the house was empty again. Waited for the meeting. The voice on the phone had said noon. I did not know who she was. I did not know what she wanted. But she knew my name. She knew about Michael. And she had sounded urgent. I dressed simply. Jeans. Jacket. Phone charged. Pepper spray in my purse, just in case. I drove to the location she had texted me that morning, an old greenhouse at the edge of town, long abandoned. I pulled into the cracked parking lot and turned off the engine. The silence was immediate. The building loomed ahead of me, vines crawling over the rusted metal skeleton of the roof. Glass panels shattered. Dead plants hanging from broken hooks. I walked in slowly, my shoes crunching on gravel and broken glass. Then I saw her, standing in the far corner, the woman from the photos, Michael's other life. She looked different now, tired, older than in the pictures. She wore sunglasses and a long coat. Her hands were in her pockets. You came, she said. I stopped a few feet away. I want answers, I said. You deserve them. We stared at each other for a long time. You are the mother of his daughter, she said. I am the mother of his son. I said nothing. She took off her sunglasses. And I saw the pain in her eyes. This is not what you think, she said. I think he has a second family. She shook her head. No, not exactly. I left him. Years ago. When Daniel was still a baby. Then why the photos? The visits. She looked down. Because Daniel is not normal. My skin prickled. What do you mean? She looked up again, eyes wide. Michael thinks Daniel is dangerous. I swallowed. Is he? Her hands trembled. I do not know. Sometimes I think yes. Sometimes I think he is just scared. Confused. But Michael believes something is wrong with him. Deeply wrong. She reached into her coat and pulled out a small journal. He kept this. Notes about Daniel. About his behavior. He was obsessed. She handed it to me. I flipped through the pages. My heart dropped. Drawings. Dark, violent drawings. Words like he watches me, and the shadow man lives inside him. Michael had written theories. Fears. Timelines. The journal felt cold in my hands. He thinks Daniel was born with something evil inside him, she whispered. That he was cursed. Or possessed. Or worse. I stared at her. That is why he kept us away, she said. Why he built this whole lie. Why he needed to hide him. Protect him. Or protect the world from him. I do not know which anymore. My mouth went dry. I do not believe all of it, she said. But I know this. Daniel has changed. She stepped closer. And now, he is asking for Emily. The wind rattled the broken glass overhead. My voice came out shaky. What do you mean? He started asking about her, drawing her face, saying her name. And last night, he said something that scared me. She looked straight into my eyes. He said, she belongs with me now. I stepped back, and everything inside me screamed, no. I had always believed that no matter how deep the secrets went, the truth would eventually claw its way out. Like roots pushing through the cracks of a concrete floor. Michael had tried to shield us. But secrets, no matter how noble the intention, were still poison in disguise. 2 nights after Michael went to find Claire, he had not come home. I called his phone. No answer. The police were sympathetic but unconcerned. He is an adult, they said. Give it 48 hours. But I knew something was wrong. Emily was quieter than ever. She stayed close to me, barely speaking. She barely slept. When I asked if she had any more dreams, she nodded. What did you see? I asked softly. She paused for a long time, then whispered, he was crying. Daniel. She nodded. He said, I did not want to be born like this. My stomach turned. Then, just before dawn, someone knocked on the door. I rushed downstairs. I half expected it to be Michael, bruised and tired, but home. Instead, I opened the door to find Claire. She looked older than I remembered. Tired in a way that ran deeper than just sleeplessness. She stepped inside without waiting to be asked. Where is he? I asked immediately. She looked down. He is gone. My heart nearly stopped. Gone. Claire nodded. I told him not to go near Daniel again. I told him that once Daniel gets too close, he takes things from people. Their calm, their peace, their memories. I stared at her. What do you mean, memories? She looked at me then, her eyes hollow. Daniel absorbs what he sees, what he hears. But sometimes, he takes it with him. Like he cannot help it. When he was little, he touched a girl's hand at school and she forgot how to speak for a full hour. It comes and goes. But it is always wrong. And Michael? She swallowed. He tried to reach Daniel. He thought if he could just talk to him, maybe he could stop it. But Daniel changed. His voice. His face. Michael looked into his eyes and saw someone else looking back. I backed away. Where is he now? I do not know. But if your daughter has seen him in her dreams, then he is close. A creak echoed through the hallway. Claire turned sharply. He is here. Emily stepped out of her room. Her eyes were wide. Afraid. Emily, I called, stepping between her and the hallway. Then a boy's voice echoed down the stairs. I am not here to hurt her. We all turned. Daniel stood at the top of the stairs. He was no older than 12. Pale. Thin. His eyes too old for his face. Claire gasped. "How did you?" "I followed the quiet," he said softly. Emily stepped beside me. "He is not like he was in the dream." Daniel looked at her. "Because this is not a dream." Claire stepped forward. "Daniel, you have to go. You cannot be here." "I wanted to see her," he said. "I had to know." "Know what?" I asked. "If she could change it." "Change what?" He looked down. "What I become." The silence that followed was deafening. Daniel looked at Emily. "You see things too, do you not? You feel it. You know it when someone lies. You hear what they do not say." Emily nodded, slowly. "Sometimes." "It is starting in you too," Daniel said. "But you are not like me. You are better. You are lighter." I pulled Emily behind me. "What do you want from her?" He blinked slowly. "Nothing. I came to say goodbye." Claire stepped closer. "Where is Michael?" Daniel looked at her. "He gave me something. He remembered something for me. Something I had lost." Tears slipped down Claire's cheek. "And what did you take from him?" Daniel looked sad. "His fear." With that, he turned, walked down the stairs, and stepped into the morning fog outside. We never saw him again. Michael returned 2 days later. Tired. Silent. But different. He hugged Emily without speaking. And though he would never tell me exactly what happened, I saw it in his eyes. Whatever darkness had followed him had been passed on. But for now, our house was quiet again. And Emily finally slept through the night.